Hey guys, it's me, and I'm back with our chapter book read aloud, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Today we're going to enter chapter 6. At the end of yesterday's chapter, I shared this opening picture with you for chapter 6. Remember his little boater hat that went flying through the air? And the very last sentence in the last chapter said, instead, Edward Tulane went overboard. So we know that Edward is now probably in the water. So let's jump into chapter 6 and find out what happens. The first sentence says this. It's actually a question. How does a China rabbit die? Can a China rabbit drown? Is my hat still on my head? These were the questions that Edward asked himself as he went sailing out over the blue sea. The sun was high in the sky, and from what seemed to be a very long way away, Edward heard Abilene call his name. "Edward!" she shouted. "Come back!" Come back? Of all the ridiculous things to shout, thought Edward. As he tumbled ears over tail through the air, he managed to catch one last glimpse of Abilene. She was standing on the deck of the ship, holding on to the railing with one hand. In her other hand was a lamp. No, it was a ball of fire. No, Edward realized it was his gold pocket watch that Abilene held in her hand. She was holding it up high, and it was reflecting the light of the sun. My pocket watch, he thought. I need that. And then Abilene disappeared from view, and the rabbit hit the water with such tremendous force that his hat blew off of his head. That answers that question, thought Edward, as he watched the hat dance away on the wind. And then he began to sink. He sank and sank and sank. He kept his eyes open the whole time, not because he was brave, but because he had no choice. His painted-on eyes witnessed the blue water turning to green and then to blue again. They watched as it finally became as black as night. Edward went down and down. He said to himself, if I'm going to drown, certainly I would have done so by now. Far above him, the ocean liner, with Abilene aboard it, sailed blithely on, and the China rabbit landed finally on the ocean floor. Face down, and there with his head in the muck, he experienced his first genuine and true emotion. Edward Tulane was afraid. And here is the picture. You can see Edward sinking in the water, and you can see the ship in the background. I wonder if you can see. It's so far away, I don't see Abilene on there on the boat. But can you see it? So now Edward has sank to the bottom of the ocean, and he's laying on the bottom. We'll go ahead and read the next chapter because that one was really short. So this one's chapter 7. Here's the opening picture for it. But before we dive in, I want you to really think about, we talk about this a lot, trying to really understand how characters are feeling in our story and giving evidence to support what we're saying. So if I were going to have to give support and evidence about how Abilene was feeling, I would say she is really, really upset, super sad, because she just lost her really special China rabbit, Edward. He was overboard, so now she doesn't have him anymore. And I would think if I had something really special and I lost it, that I would be really sad. So that would be what I think about the character's feelings and my evidence to support why I'm saying that. And Edward is alone. He's now laying at the bottom of the ocean, and he's feeling afraid, and he's scared, which makes sense, right? I'd be scared too. So chapter 7, we're going to dive in there. Looks like this opening picture is a big wave or something. You know what I should show you guys? I bet you guys all have something special, maybe that you sleep with, a blanket, a stuffed animal, something like that. Caden has, she calls him Baby Jags. It's a stuffed jaguar. She's had him since she was probably 1. Hey, Kay, can you grab Baby Jags real quick and show them? Because we were reading about how Abilene just lost her really special animal. So can you grab him so we can show them? She's getting him. He's so cute. And he's been really loved. He's been through the washer lots of times. So his stuffing, he's not as fluffy as he used to be. He's kind of flatter now. Did you find him, Kay? Thanks, Boo. Look how adorable he is. So this is Caden's Baby Jags, and you can see he's been really loved. He is super special to Caden, though. So anywhere we go, if we go on vacation, she takes him with us. Anywhere we've ever been, Baby Jags comes. So if she lost him, I know Caden would be really, really upset. He doesn't have fancy clothes or anything like that, but he sure is loved. Okay. So chapter 7, he told himself that certainly Abilene would come and find him. This, Edward thought, is much like waiting for Abilene to come home from school. I will pretend that I am in the dining room of the house on Egypt Street, waiting for the little hand to move to the 3 and the big hand to land on the 12. If only I had my watch, then I would know for sure. But it doesn't matter. She will be here soon. Very soon. Hours passed, and then days, and weeks, and months. Abilene did not come. Edward, for lack of anything better to do, began to think. He thought about the stars. He remembered what they looked like from his bedroom window. What made them shine so brightly, he wondered, and were they still shining somewhere even though he could not see them? Never in my life, he thought, have I been farther away from the stars than I am now. He considered, too, the fate of the beautiful princess who had become a warthog. Why had she become a warthog? Because the ugly witch turned her into one, that was why. And then the rabbit thought about Pellegrina. He felt in some way that he could not explain to himself that she was responsible for what had happened to him. It was almost as if she, and not the boys, had thrown Edward overboard. She was like the witch in the story. No, she was the witch in the story. True, she did not turn him into a warthog, but just the same, she was punishing him, although for what, he could not say. On the 297th day of Edward's ordeal, a storm came. The storm was so powerful that it lifted Edward off the ocean floor and led him in a crazy, wild, and spinning dance. The water pummeled him and lifted him up and shoved him back down. Help! Thought Edward. The storm, in its ferocity, actually flung him all the way out of the sea, and the rabbit glimpsed, for a moment, the light of an angry and bruised sky. The wind rushed through his ears. It sounded to him like Pellegrina laughing. But before he had time to appreciate being above water, he was tossed back down into the depths. Up and down, back and forth he went, until the storm wore itself out, and Edward saw that he was beginning again his slow descent to the ocean floor. Oh, help me, he thought. I can't go back there. Help me. But still down he went, down, down, down. And then suddenly the great wide net of a fisherman reached out and grabbed the rabbit. The net lifted him higher and higher until there was an almost unbearable explosion of light, and Edward was back in the world, lying on the deck of a ship, surrounded by fish. The connection I just made, I was thinking about, you know how in the morning when you wake up and you get out of bed and you turn the lights on and it's so bright at first? Well, Edward had been laying in the bottom of the ocean for who knows how long now, and when he finally gets pulled up by this fisherman's net, the sun is so bright it's like blinding him. What's this? Said a voice. Ain't no fish, said another voice. That's for sure. The light was so brilliant that it was hard for Edward to see. But finally, shapes appeared out of the light, and then faces, and Edward realized that he was looking up at 2 men, one young and one old. Looks like some toy, said the grizzled old man. He bent and picked Edward up and held him by his front paws, considering him. A rabbit, I reckon. It's got whiskers and rabbit ears, or the shape of rabbit ears at least. Yeah, sure, a rabbit toy, said the younger man, and he turned away. I'll take it home to Nellie. Let her fix it up and set it to rights. Give it to some child. The old man placed Edward carefully on a crate, positioning him so that he was sitting up and could look out at the sea. Edward appreciated the courtesy of this small gesture, but he was heartily sick of the ocean and would have been satisfied never to set eyes on it again. There you go, said the old man. As they made their way back to shore, Edward felt the sun on his face and the wind blowing through the little bit of fur left on his ears. And something filled his chest, a wonderful feeling. He was glad to be alive. Look at that rabbit, said the old man. Looks like he's enjoying the ride, don't it? Yep, said the young man. In fact, Edward Tulane was so happy to be back among the living that he did not even take umbrage at being referred to as it. Okay, now chapter 8. Here's our opening wallpaper. We'll read that one tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure that's probably the fisherman who found him. And in the story, he said that he was going to take the rabbit home to Nellie. Let me look back at that part. I'll take it home to Nellie, let her fix it up, and set it to rights. Give it to some child. I'm guessing that Nellie is probably his wife, maybe, and she's going to take care of Edward, fix him up, and then find a child to give Edward to. So I hope that you really enjoyed those 2 chapters from The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait to find out what happens next. Okay, talk to you guys soon. Bye.